Alright, it is time for us to jump into another video. So let's discuss Mass Effect 1, the start of Bioware's legendary trilogy. And this is played all on the Legendary Edition. So let's see how good it is. Mass Effect 1's story follows Shepard, a human, male or female depending on your character choice, who is a member of the Human Alliance, a military organization, and the first human Spectre, as they travel throughout the galaxy fighting against a galactic threat known as the Reapers, as well as the Reapers' proxies that they use throughout the universe, Saren, a former Spectre, Turian, and the Geth, a synthetic AI race who view the Reapers as gods. And as you travel throughout the galaxy, you get to meet several different races, from the Asari, the Turians, Solarians, just to name a few. And some members of these races join your crew and help you to fight against the Reapers throughout this game and potentially the games to come, depending on your choices. And many of the choices you get to make throughout this story can potentially have an impact on future games. You know, through the dozens of side stories, some companion missions, and even a DLC story revolved around the Batarians, a race who has a very well-known conflict consistently with the humans. Even your choice of starting story, whether you choose to be a colonist, someone who lived out in the terminus systems until their family was attacked by Batarian slavers and every one of your loved ones was killed, whether you grew up on Earth as Earthborn, as an orphan who ran with street gangs before joining the Alliance, or as a spacer, someone who grew up on the Alliance freighters as their parents served throughout the military who joins the Alliance as soon as they turn 18. These can still have an effect on your story, giving you the option of a few different missions that you may not see, depending on which one you choose. And it's all these little choices that you have throughout the game that make up one giant amazing story. That's then enhanced by some amazing voice acting that improves as the series goes on. I personally prefer female Shepard. The voice actor Jennifer Hale, she does a really good job with it. It has some amazing cutscenes, even the original 2007 version of the game. To this day, I still love the cutscenes that appear throughout it. And of course, amazing soundtrack. You know, the right soundtrack to make each moment feel tense really does improve the overall state of the game. Now, to back up some of this great storytelling, world building, and all that, is some generally fun third-person shooter combat. And with the first game of the trilogy being the most heavily upgraded, it actually feels somewhat decent to play compared to its original 2007 release version. One of the biggest things I'm most happy about is they fixed the sniper. You know, you can actually zoom down the lens correctly. You don't have the camera constantly bouncing around. I'm very happy with that improvement. And with a large variety of weapons between your shotguns, pistols, sniper rifles, and assault rifles, you can have a variety of different playstyles depending on what you're interested in. And these can be enhanced by your different abilities. If you want to be a biotic, someone goes in with devastating power and up-close weapons such as a shotgun. Or if you want to be a hacker, you know, someone with the tech ability who sits back with sniper rifles. You have the choice. And of course, with all these choices, depending on what you decide to pick, there is the occasional drawback, like certain classes won't allow you to be proficient in certain types of weapons, or you may only be able to wear light armor instead of medium or heavy. And even though all the armors do have, you know, their own special look and they look nice, it can be a drawback not being able to come a bit more tanky. And it is worth noting that some of the drawbacks for your own class, depending on what you pick, can be made up through your squad mates who have their own specialised abilities and whatnot. And of course, you can also add, you know, upgrades to your weapons and armour and whatnot to make yourselves, or make a specific weapon if you like it and want to stick with that one a bit stronger. Now, as you're playing along, of course, like most RPG, you earn points to upgrade abilities through leveling up and whatnot. And as we've said, you know, you have a variety of different abilities that you can upgrade. But one thing worth noting is the charm / intimidate. Depending on what you'd prefer to put your points in. You can put it in both if you wish, or just try and focus on one. And these can have an effect on the story. You know, you can be locked out of specific conversations that can give you a better outcome or a worse outcome depending on what you decide you want to do. So if there's anything you should really focus on leveling up first, I would always keep an eye on whether you can add any more points into one of these two abilities. Try and keep them maxed out to just offer you the most amount out of your game, the most amount of conversations and different topics that you can engage in. Now, on top of all this third-person shooter gameplay, you do have the occasional ground vehicle combat gameplay as well, where you travel around in a Mako on different planets, traveling from area to area, occasionally fighting enemies, destroying turrets, or just traveling from base to base, depending on what each planet offers. And there's not a whole lot to it, but it is enough to add just a bit of extra gameplay on top of all the third-person shooter combat. And while this isn't an open world game, they do have several areas that are open world enough to give you a bit of variety, like the Citadel, as you travel around it and explore different areas. And while some can become repetitive, there is just enough variety to keep this game interesting. So overall, it is a very good game. There's definitely some good upgrades. It feels a lot smoother as you play through it compared to the original release. There is the occasional area where it still just falls down and doesn't feel necessary and could have used a bit of a change, like the small mini-game hacking that there is throughout the areas. It just feels unnecessary, and at least for me, it just feels like a waste of time. And while you can use the Omnigel to just automatically open areas, eventually you'll run out and still have to end up doing the little mini-game. And on top of that, the first game has like heat sink weapons. They overheat instead of having clips to reload. And while it's not the worst thing I've ever come across, I definitely do prefer being able to reload my weapon rather than having to sit there for a few seconds and wait for it to cool down. Or, switching weapons if an enemy hits you with an ability that keeps it overheated for several seconds. But these are just a few little annoyances for me personally. Some others might enjoy them, but that's each to their own. And that's it for this video. Although this game's not quite as good as number 2 and 3, it's still a great entry into an amazing trilogy. And that's it for this video, so I hope to catch everyone in the next one.
You two, keep moving inside now!